Hi, this is Matt once again. This is another paid request, this time from I Hate Facebook. And if anyone's interested in requesting any type of topics, reviews, reactions, commentaries, re-reviews, randomness, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for a topic that he wanted me to do on the best to worst Freddy Krueger performances, which I thought was interesting. I had to think about it for a bit. Freddy Krueger, great horror villain. I think Robert Englund, for the most part, plays him extremely well. As I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, well, what about his performances would I say is his best? Or I should say more of my favorite. I would say is Part 4. Part 4 is my favorite performance from him. Granted, it's my favorite movie, The Dream Master, with Alice, Lisa Wilcox's character. But I just love, not just the way Freddy looks, but Robert Englund, I thought, had a lot of energy to it. That's the one where you call the MTV Freddy. I like a lot of the lines he says. How sweet, fresh meat. Or how's this for a wet dream? Welcome to Wonderland, Alice. Yes, he's more comedic, but I think in a weird way that's kind of where he became the icon of Freddy. Where I know people say Part 3, but Part 4, he was the star. Like, he was the front and center star of it. It felt like he got more screen time. Some would say it's a detriment. I can understand that. But I would say that's more for Part 5 as a detriment. Part 4, Robert still had the energy. Still had a very fun presence to him. And like I said, mixed in with the way it looks and the energy Rennie Harlan brought to the direction of the film. Robert Englund's performance, like I said, his lines of dialogue. And you watch it again, he still has a bit of a sinister edge to his voice compared to Part 5. Part 5, I didn't feel that. Part 4, he still had a little bit of sinister, like his first line, "You should have buried me. I'm not dead." So he still has some of that sinister, but also has that energy, just loves to fuck with people. I really got the sense, like when he's in the fictional diner, and he's poking at the meatballs, and the way he's taunting Alice. Or the way Alice keeps kicking him and he's just laughing. I am eternal. He's really just going full tilt at the Freddy persona. And I just always had the most fun with his performance in Elm Street 4. Now, my second favorite performance is, I would say, Elm Street 2. I don't feel like, really? Yeah, because that is the darker Freddy. He had a bit more to act with compared to the first film. Again, it has one of my favorite lines, "You've got the body, I've got the brain." And his performance, I think, is helped by being a bit different, where he's actually inside the person, and that's a different dynamic compared to any of the other Freddy Krueger films. And just that almost psychological fuckery with Mark Patton's character. Like when he's crying and Freddy's like taunting. And plus, acting-wise, he get to be a bit more of a physical guy, where he's fucking people up at the party. "You are all my children now." Like I say, he still got to be the dark, sinister Freddy, but he got a little bit more to do physically compared to, like I said, Part 1. Like I said, always enjoyed Elm Street 2 and his performance in that. And in the top 3, I'd have to put Part 3, The Dream Warriors. That's where you see a bit more of the humor, a bit more of him having fun, a bit more of Robert Englund be able to have a bit more freedom in what he can do as Freddy Krueger. The way he interacts with each of the people during their either death scenes, I don't believe in fairy tales, or making a guy be a fucking his own ventriloquist, walking the guy off a damn tower, which is definitely one of the more interesting, imaginative deaths in the movie. It's kind of hard to like explain why the performances work. It's just, I did in part 4, I thought was the most fun. Part 2, I thought worked well in that balance of that dark, sinister with a few good one-liners. And then part 3 is like edging into the more fun Freddy. Still has that darkness to it. And this is when Robert Englund, he had energy into the role. You know, the next choice I would have is part 1, the original. Because with Wes Craven's direction, that's definitely the darkest Freddy. And it's interesting when you see where Freddy went to and the multitude of sequels. When you go back and watch Elm Street, you see he can be very sinister and scary and subtle, and the way he moves, the way he sets his glove on his shoulder. I mean, like, Robert Englund is an actor. That's why when they try to recast him in part 2, it didn't work, because the shower scene in part 2, that was another actor. And when he walked, he looked like he shit his pants. You don't want that for Freddy to walk around like he shit his pants. Yep, he's not going to work. Get Robert Englund, because he's an actor. He can fully utilize the role. So it's 4, 2, 3, then 1. 1, I mean... And even the voice is definitely a bit of the most sinister of voices for Freddy. But a lot of times he's in the shadow, which is on purpose. A lot of times he's not on screen, which is on purpose. So with the others, 4, 2, and 3, I'm able to gauge more of his performance, because he's just on screen more, if that makes sense. Now, this is going to be controversial, but the next choice is Freddys Dad. I enjoy his performance in Freddys Dad. The makeup I don't mind, although I do think they lit it maybe a bit... It looks better than the makeup in part 5. I don't know if it's lit a little too brightly still, but I do think it's better than part 5. And I had a lot of fun with Freddy Krueger, with Robert Englund in that movie, because yes, that's his most comedic and fun, but Robert Englund looked like he was having so much fun that it was kind of infectious to me. And that's another movie I would call Robert Englund is a star. And yeah, a lot of people won't like it, understandably so, because it becomes goofball territory. But after part 5, which I think is one of his weakest performances, I think it's Robert Englund's weakest performance as Freddy, where he just seemed tired and drained, and his reactions were just seemed a bit forced, a bit like his heart wasn't in it, or just being tired, because that was '89. That's where you have, you know, Phantom of the Opera coming out, 976 Evil he directed, Freddy's TV show. All that stuff was happening around that same time period. Why wouldn't he be tired? But Freddys Dad, there's moments, some of my favorite moments are just his performance of when he's talking about Yafakoto. They tried to burn me. They tried to bury me. This is my favorite. They even tried holy water, but I just keep on ticking. That's one of my favorite acting moments from Robert. And it's in Freddys Dad. And again, it's like he, in his mind, he thought, this is the final time I'm going to be Freddy. I'm going to give him my all in my performance. And whether people dislike the movie or not, I do think Robert gave it his all, and he brought, again, a tremendous energy. He was no longer intimidating. He was no longer scary, but he was fun to watch. I know a lot of people, I can understand not agreeing with that, but I thought he was just a ball to watch in Freddys Dad. And then I would put Freddy vs. Jason, because I'm not big on Freddy vs. Jason, but Robert Englund gives a good performance. I think he's one of the best parts of that movie. And I do think that it's like Robert Englund had a lot of years. He fit back into the role very well. Because that's another thing. In Nightmare on Elm Street, he was playing the role almost every year. From 84 to 89, you had 5 movies. So, yeah, almost every year. 84, 85, then I think 87, 88, and then 89. You know, that's a lot. Now that he's had so much time, okay, is he going to be a bit creaky in his performance? Is he going to be a bit trying to fit into the shoes once more? But he did it. He did it very well. Fit like a glove. It got right back again into that. And it's still being that fun Freddy Krueger persona. Yes, it would have been nice to see him tap a little bit more into that scarier Freddy, but Robert Englund brought it all. He was not sleepwalking in the slightest, and it also helps that after such a long wait, it was nice to see Freddy in the makeup. And that's one of the, again, the things I can't take away from Freddy vs. Jason. It was nice to see Robert Englund as Freddy again, and that will be his swan song. Because he will not play Freddy Krueger again. I guarantee it. And you know what? He got it fighting a shitty Jason, but a Jason Voorhees. I think that is a shitty Jason. I hate the way he looks. I hate his fucking overlong coat. I hate that it looks like a fucking bum off the street. Or the bum from a Rob Zombie Halloween film. I hate that his got this weird tuft of hair. Just have it be no hair or fix the shit. The mask looks like it's too fucking wide when it should be more like this. But it looks like it's too fucking big for his head. Like too fucking wide, so it's sticking out 2 inches. That's what it almost seems like. I hate that we keep seeing his eyes. I think it works better when you don't see Jason's eyes. Kind of like Michael Myers. You don't always see Michael Myers' eyes. I think it works better not to see the eyes. But Ronnie Yu was one of the reasons that fucked that up. I'm going off tangent anyway. Because I remember a guy comment say, "Oh, I'm tired of people bitching about Jason and Freddy vs. Jason." Well, there's a lot of people bitching about it for a reason. Sorry you don't agree. We agree to disagree. But getting back to this. Then after it'd be Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, I love Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but the only reason that performance is down on the list, you see much more Robert Englund as himself than Freddy Krueger. Like, Freddy Krueger, it's more about how his presence is affecting the real world. You don't really see a lot of Freddy himself per se, so it's kind of hard to judge it. Plus, even that has some goofy stuff, like him trying to swallow the boy, which is supposed to be reminiscent of, you know, the old fairy tales where the witch is swallowing the kids or something, or trying to. Hansel and Gretel, where the witch wants to eat the kids. That type of stuff. And Robert Englund isn't bad, and you have a different design of the makeup, but Robert Englund is good. It's just, again, there's not a whole lot with him as Freddy that it's hard to really gauge in depth on the performance. I didn't go, oh, I liked it. I think he did a good job. But it is, other than, you know, a few of the kill scenes, like when he's dragging the woman up and the little kid is watching. You know, he does fight in those scenes. But it's very limited Freddy himself. Kind of like the first film. And the last two, like, part 5, I think is easily the worst Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund performance. Like I said, I think he was doing so many projects, he was just tired. Plus, I think that's the worst the makeup looked. It looked extra fake and rubbery, and I think maybe the way it was lit, it didn't help either. The picture wants to be this dark, almost painting, gothic art style, but then Freddy's being the most... It felt like he was more silly and goofy in... Well, technically he's more silly in Freddy's Dad. He's got the power glove. But that one, at least Freddy was more... Robert Englund, like, more of a gun-ho energy to the performance, so it worked for me. Here, it's like he was kind of... His heart was half in it, or just tired. Maybe just drained and tired. Bon appetit, bitch. Or trying to be the fucking superhero villain, the super villain. Faster than a raving maniac, or whatever the fuck it was, and... Again, just felt tired. Just felt tired when he got to that. And they didn't give him much good lines of dialogue. And again, the makeup, the way it's lit, that didn't help either with his performance. Yeah, just did not like it at all. But I don't like part 5. To me, it's the weakest of all the Robert Englund Freddy Krueger films. And then the worst is Jackie Earle Haley as in the remake. Billy Bob Krueger. Ready for a little Southern comfort. Why are you screaming for? I haven't cut you yet. With the taters. You know. Fucking Jackie Earle Haley. You did not need a remake of Elm Street. You did not need to do it. You still don't need to do it. Just let it be. As the song said, let it be, let it be. Just let it be. And Jackie Earle Haley did a shitty job. It was a shitty looking Freddy, and his performance, hey, I will go, and you ever seen Sling Blade? I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna get that girl, I'm gonna go to the get some French fried taters, I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna stick my glove up your ass like Dr. Gonna give you a little prostate exam and a fish fuck. It's just... He's just fucking awful in the movie. Fucking terrible. And it's like they're trying desperately to make him intimidating and scary, and it came off the opposite. The Southern Belle, whatever the fuck he was doing with his accent. I didn't know Freddy Krueger was from Louisiana or from Tennessee or where the fuck. Fucking Sling Blade. So that's why I hated that performance. So it's 4, 2, 3, 1, 6, Freddy vs. Jason, 7, 5 of the remake. If you disagree, that's cool. Like I said, part 4... That was the Freddy Krueger I grew up with. That was the Freddy Krueger. Whenever I think of Freddy, I think of Robert's work in that movie. That's why even Rennie Harlan knew he was the star at this point. That's why it's like Robert Englund in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Like, he put him at the top of the casting sheet. Really, like, above the title. And that's where it's like... That's what I mean... He did well. I think part 4 is what made him the icon of Freddy. At least to me. And the remake was the worst of it. It showed that Robert Englund was the guy to play this. And don't have anyone else do it. Don't remake it again, please. Please. Robert Englund was a guy that could perform it physically, like a silent actor, with the way he moves his hands or puts it on his shoulder, or, you know, with his claws, kind of almost like the Bela Lugosi hand movements. You know, I think he did that in Elm Street 4 to the girl in the classroom before. You want to suck face? Or like when he's got the apple, he's carving it. Like you watch his physical performance in Elm Street 4. It's almost like a pantomime act. I mean in a positive way. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. Thanks for watching. Take care. What's your favorite Freddy Krueger performance? Feel free to put it in the comments. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.